in that market the other day, though, with all those books. I was an apocryphal tale. I literally bought more books than I could carry. And so my backpack was full of books and my arms were full of books. And there's a point where I was literally like, I need to sit down and have a beer because there's only beer tents here because I cannot carry any more of this stuff.
I guess you were like a living meme for a second where that guy couldn't hold all those limes.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, man, I was just like, this is the tale of Icarus. This is my undoing. A bargain so good it kills me. It costs so little, yet it costs so much.
Welcome to another brand new episode of Undisputed Anime. This is the podcast where we love to give you some recommendations. I am your host, Zane Taichou, captain of recommendations. And today I have been lucky enough to get a manga connoisseur, a manga collector, the host of the Manga Tak Podcast, Matthew. Welcome.
Hello. Hi, Zane. As you say, I'm mostly a manga person, so it's going to be interesting for us to talk about some anime once in a while, because I've found that as I have launched this manga podcast, my time to watch anime, bar the hit show of that particular season, has just decreased rapidly as I end up reading random stuff. So
nice. Yeah, I'm with you. You could probably just make it out. To this side of me, there is a stack. No, that if I do that, that's going to be easier. There's a stack right there of stuff I need to read. And yeah, it's ever growing. Things like new hot anime drop in the summer. It doesn't help. It doesn't help as well when you have what I'm thinking is a mild addiction to zoneless Zen Zero right now.
Don't bring it up. I can't talk about my gacha habits in public. So I'm at that point with it where I'm just doing my dailies at the moment. Like, there's so much other stuff going on, and it's actually nice weather for once. I want to be outside, and so I'm literally having to say to my wife, give me 15 minutes. I just need to go on, kill some battery, scratch a scratch card, and do a random pull and get nothing. And then my day is complete.
It's funny because my wife has just discovered like a whole book series. So she's like, oh, you could play your game as I sit here and read a book. And I'm like, I could play a game. What can I play? I need to try and do that scratch card and pull that one made. And
yep. Have you managed yet?
No, I'm currently in a saving phase, so I'm stocking up on all the materials and stuff, and I'm hoping these rumors of a sympathy system will I'm hoping.
Well, I mean, the sympathy system does exist, but remember, at the time of recording, I think the banner ends in 3 days, my friend, so you better get pulling, because otherwise the maid's going to go out of circulation. You will not have Ellen and her sharky icy powers in your team.
I need those icy powers.
Everyone does. Yeah, see, this is, as I said to Sue in our group chat, I've now got the problem where I used all of my pulls and all of the pity stuff on pulling the maid, and now I need the W engine, which is essentially the weapon for her, and I'm not going to get it. There's way too many pulls I'm going to need to do before this ends, so I've just given up on it.
I'm playing it so much now, I'm kind of debating, do I just start streaming like on Twitch? Because this is what my evenings have become, is to random pulls on trying to get some new characters and stuff.
But it's not gambling, it's fine. It's just good, harmless fun, right?
Exactly, yeah. I haven't put any real money into this. It's just all in-game currency, so it's not too bad.
I did buy one pack of the I forgot what it's called, the black and white version of the polychrome, like monochrome or whatever it's called, the premium version of that currency. because I was near my 80th pity pull. I'd already pulled one of Ellen, and I was like, well, I may as well just do this now, get it out of the way, and see if I pull her. And I didn't. So I'm so glad I pulled her before that, because even the guaranteed S rank pull, I failed the check, and I didn't pull a second version of her.
Wow.
So, and that taught me a valuable lesson of us like, can't even pay to win in these games. Why bother paying?
That is a valuable lesson. By the way, if you are happen to be playing ZZZ, let us know in the comments. Let us know if you've managed to pull Ellen, the shark maid, and yeah, love to hear from you. This week we're going to talk about the summer lineup. Have you jumped into some of these already? Have you had the chance?
I have watched one episode of one.
Oh.
Because so as I've said, usually what my evenings consist of now is either playing a bit of ZZZ,
Mm-hmm.
or it's podcast focused stuff, or it's reading manga for enjoyment, because I still get to do that at the moment because it hasn't overwhelmed me. And so I am very particular with the anime I watch. I'm
Mm-hmm.
generally either watching more classic stuff, like at the moment I'm working through Gainax's Gunbuster, or I have taken on the thankless task of trying to watch all of Gundam in sequential order. So I'm currently in Turn A Gundam,
Oh,
which,
wow.
if you haven't watched, is very weird. It's got a very good opening theme song in which someone who sounds like Vinnie Jones goes, Turn A Gundam at the start, which brings me no end of enjoyment. And so watching new anime is something that I'm like, oh, should I, shouldn't I? And as I said to you off mic, in looking at this, I was like, oh, there isn't really that much for me this season. I'm not seeing something like a Delicious in Dungeon or a Free Run that's going to grab my attention. And then you snuck into my DMs and was just like, hey, look at this thing called My Dear Friend Nokotan. And so as I was intrigued while writing the notes this morning, I was like, I'll just put this on in the background. And it delayed me writing the notes because it's one of the funniest things I've seen in ages.
I definitely agree with you there. Let's start with My Dear Friend. Let me pop that on screen. So, yeah, really bizarre. The trailer dropped for this, and I think it had the community in a chokehold because everyone's asking, what did I just watch? What is this? Where has it even come from?
Yeah.
And now it's, at the time of recording, it's 3 episodes in, with a 4th episode airing this week. And I've seen the first 2 episodes, and yeah, I have been in hysterics watching this.
Like, they got me from the off, and so much so, right? It's been a while since I've seen, well, to be honest with you, any piece of television where I've had to call my wife in to be like, just watch this for a second with absolutely no context. So I made her watch the intro, just the first kind of like 1 minute and a half sting before the first OP plays, and just it being like, oh, all sunshine and rainbows. This girl's the honor student to a school, and then just the tonal shift in them dropping these PS2 era level of feeling deer that just animate like they are part of a PlayStation 2 cutscene. And she was like, what the heck is this? And it only went downhill from there. And I laughed and I laughed and I laughed.
I can't really put into words the comedy timing of it, the silliness of it as well. Like, just weird things and the references. Like, you even sent one this morning of the deer
Dark
had
Souls.
the Dark Souls, like, what was it? Not Deer Gone.
You dear or something like that,
Yeah,
instead of you died, and just the honor student placed down on the floor with the red font on top of it.
So bizarre. But yeah, I think it goes to show as well that some of these sort of comedy based anime series, they probably don't get talked a lot about. Like you have is it Gitama? It's
Yeah.
probably the most popular one, and maybe a Fooly Cooly here and there. But yeah, it's great to kind of see something kind of take that crown in a weird way, or at least try to be a top funny anime series.
It gives me vibes, right? Because it feels like they've taken a load of tropes from anime
Mm-hmm.
and like meme culture and put it into a blender. It
Mm.
kind of reminds me of the buzz around Pop Team Epic. If you remember
Um,
that, the one with the weird schoolgirl, one of them's got a really deep voice, and they just look like adorable kawaii schoolgirls, but then they just get up to like weird,
I
crazy
think so.
nonsense.
Yeah, I think I know which one you mean. Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I'm lost for words with this series. It's a good opening. I think the opening track is already trending on TikTok and stuff for numerous funny vids and skits and things. Um, in terms of its runtime, it's 23 minutes. It's by Studio Wit as well, which
Yeah.
caught me by surprise. I wasn't expecting Studio Wit to pull out something like this. And yeah, it's honestly hilarious.
To be honest, the wit thing for me was just like, oh well, I've liked 99% of everything I've seen by Wit. They're usually like incredible at animating, and usually
Mm.
they've got good pacing to everything they do. And I guess it's just the deer, because I had seen the deer at some point and just it had gone from my brain, and then when
Mm-hmm.
you resurfaced it, I was like, "How is this Wit?" And I was like, "Okay, I trust them enough that this is going to be used very comedically and very well." And I was
Mm-hmm.
not disappointed in that first episode.
You mentioned the animation. The animation quality is outstanding in this. It is
Hmm.
so good. And something else that you've just reminded me of is the odd connections to Nara Park. Things like deer cookies, and even the closing credits shows people in Nara Park making
Hmm.
the cookies by hand or by machine, and then tying them up by hand and stuff. Yeah, hilarious.
Even the frames on the stings between the ad breaks are just like real life photos of deer, which I assume are probably also in Narrow Park, and then the girls over the top of them. So like, yeah,
Mm.
I guess they just like someone went to Narrow Park. It was like a great idea for an anime. I'm here for it. That's all I can
Me too.
say.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. And shout out to the person who gets paid to do B-roll at Nara Park for a day.
Yeah. Hey, if you're looking for volunteers, I'll gladly go do it.
Excellent. So, what should I pick out? I'll pick out this one because this one kind of intrigues me, but I'm a bit on the fence. So, I started this series the other day, and again, it's got about 2 episodes out already.
Right.
Let me share that on screen. So the series is called No Longer Allowed in Another World. I enjoy a good isekai. I think it's always a fun thing to watch over the spring and summer. This one slightly different though, and when I say slightly, it's a very dark, twisted version. Have you heard of this before?
Yeah, I watched the trailer for this, but I have to be honest.
Mm.
As soon as I saw, well, I mean, as soon as I saw the title, I knew it was going to be isekai, and I struggle with this genre a lot in that I like the premise of an isekai, but like I never have found one that's really clicked with me in a
Hmm.
positive way, and so I've kind of immediately wrote it off, despite the looking quite interesting from the trailer. Because I'm like, oh, I haven't got much time. Do I want to spend it watching an isekai when there are
Mm.
so many other good things this season? But like,
I think
how was it?
I think that's a fair comment. Yeah, it plays to a lot of tropes, and I think that's its strength more than anything. In the sense of, it takes the classic isekai trope. So the whole idea is that the main character, um, he tries to, how do I say this without it flagging up on YouTube? He tries to jump into a river without any means of surviving.
Yes.
With a friend. I don't know if they're romantic. I think it's assuming that they're romantic because they tie a red string on each other's wrists so that they would go together. And then a truck turns up and knocks both of them.
Oh, good. I was going to say Rivers putting Truck-kun out of business. See, this is a recipe for disaster already, but he's getting his dues. Good.
Exactly that. And the whole joke is that he lands in this other world. There's an elf in this church, and she says, "You are the one who will stop the darkness." Blah blah blah. And as he sits there, he tries to take some pills to again escape. And she uses her magic to detox him and save him and stuff. And she discovers that his HP is only 1. Because he sat there chain smoking and things like that. So it's again, it kind of plays into the tropes of Truck-kun travels the world, and anyone who's mildly depressed, it will transport to our world to lead a better life. But the funny thing is, this elf, she greets all these other travelers, and each one has always been like, "Oh, God's sake, I'm in another world now. Great." Or they've been like, "Oh, I've just had a dead end job and now I've got to do a mission. Fantastic."
Yeah.
And each one has had like some sort of nasty trait in terms of they're arrogant with their new power set, or they don't appreciate this new world
second chance they've been given. Yeah. Okay.
Where this guy, he's kind of like, "I don't want this. I didn't want this at all. I just want to move on." And again, it's kind of weird, and it's a kind of plays the comedy, but it's a very dark comedy, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, okay. You've made me slightly more interested in this. If it's like trying to deconstruct the tropes of an isekai, and obviously the somewhat traumatic events that usually lead to an isekai story, and then it being the person rejecting this newfound world, maybe there's something interesting in there. But you and I both know he's going to be the special boy, and despite having 1 HP, he's going to have some ability to like rally something, and that's what I'm afraid of. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop before I jump in.
They've already kind of shown that his special ability is poison, because he's tried to poison himself so many times and such that when monsters attack him and he's like, "Oh, finally," like this whomping willow tree starts to wrap its vines around him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, this is my time." But it gets poisoned from it contacting him. So then he ends up just chain smoking again.
Okay. I can get behind it. Like it sounds interesting.
I wouldn't say the actual animation is anything to kind of write home about. Already the elf priestess is in love with him because he's not like any other adventurer that she's come across before. So yeah, it hasn't set my world on fire. It's definitely different. I just don't know if I'm going to stick with it the whole season.
Yeah, that's fair. Again, I think an isekai would have to do something like really. It would have to break genre convention or do something so interesting with the isekai formula that it would made me watch it. Because I have such a negative perception of isekai from what I've tried to explore in the past that I can't just do it on blind faith anymore.
Yeah. I don't know if this would actually change that, because again, it kind of dials in so much on the tropes, and there's nothing else that kind of makes me go, wow. It's not like the animation again is outstanding, like a Demon Slayer or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I wouldn't say it even has like me by the heartstrings like free rendered either. So
okay. But
Yeah.
you never know. Maybe there's like a second or third or fourth episode reveal that completely changes it around or does something. So, like, give it a few episodes and let me know if you're still into it.
Mm-hmm.
Then maybe I'll check it out.
Sound. I'm down for that. Anything else you've been watching? Or
Nothing
on
else
your
I've been
list?
watching, to be honest with you. There's a lot of stuff on this list of stuff I want to watch, but none that pulled me in as much, I would say, as My Dear Friend. There was a couple of things that I looked at and was like, oh, that looks really interesting. But unfortunately, some of them are on High Dive, which I cannot get in Denmark. So Dungeon People looked kind of nice and kind of interesting. If you've seen this one, it's about a
Ooh.
girl who is going into dungeons and fighting monsters, but then she realizes that the monsters can all talk and they're all leading this life inside a dungeon, and maybe she's kind of a villain for going in and killing the monsters to get XP and loot and stuff. It seems like a really nice premise. And I was watching the trailer, I was like, I might check this out. And then immediately I saw a High Dive logo and then, okay. This is going to be Urusei Yatsura all over again. I can't watch it. I'm just going to click off the trailer.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it seems really nice.
Call me crazy. With High Dive, doesn't some of that stuff go to Disney Plus?
Sometimes, but usually, in my experience, no, it hasn't. Like I said, I'm still waiting to see the new season of Urusei Yatsura that came out. I just can't watch it anywhere. It isn't legally available at the moment, unless it's come out on DVD/Blu-ray, which I haven't checked. As a streaming service, I cannot watch it, which is a shame.
Yeah, that's a bummer. I've just noticed this is listed only with 12 episodes. I did notice this come up, and I was on the fence of watching this because, again, we've been spoilt recently with Delicious in Dungeon, and I was like, is it too soon to kind of jump into another dungeon based show? But for 12 episodes, I might give this a shot.
Yeah, it was also one that I had seen, and I know after trying to figure out if I could watch it on another service other than High Dive, there's also a 5 volumes of manga as well. And I like the illustration style of the manga, especially the covers look very nice. So maybe that's how I will have to enjoy this. We shall see.
Yeah. Oh.
I do get you on the point about Delicious in Dungeon, though. I kind of, when I was looking through the titles, I was like, oh, I should at least do my due diligence and watch these trailers. But it doesn't seem like it's trying to do the Delicious in Dungeon thing where it's not trying to be a new kind of story so much. I think I still think there is like the mystery thing going on, but it's just this kind of spin on it of like, oh well, the monsters can talk and the monsters are characters. And I think there's been some of that stuff in other manga that I've seen. Nothing comes to mind immediately, but I have seen this, oh, the monsters are actually friendly and the humans are maybe the villains trope a couple of times. So
yeah,
maybe it's just a heartwarming tale about a girl in search of a dad, and then she runs into these monsters. I don't know. Again, I can't watch it to tell you.
but it's definitely on your radar, which is interesting.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, right? I think there are some obvious ones within this list that I'm sure we'll get to, because I'm sure they're going to be on both of our lists. But I was like, okay, let's see what's below the surface. What are the ones that aren't going to set the world on fire, and let's see if there's anything interesting in them. And for that, I was like, oh, okay, I'll give this a check if I can eventually. Like I said, I'll probably have to read it, but we'll see.
Good stuff. So I watched this earlier this week, only the first episode. And I have to admit, this was kind of one thing I was really anticipating coming into the season, which is Failure Frame. I became the strongest and eliminated everything with low level spells. Now,
right,
long title. You'd be right in assuming it's an isekai because of the long title. Now, the reason I was really anticipating this is that the first episode, the first volume, the whole idea is that it's a whole school bus of kids who get transported into a fantasy world.
Okay.
They're greeted by a goddess, including their teacher as well, which is quite funny. And they get tested in terms of how strong each individual is, because they're preparing for a huge demon to attack. This isn't the first time this has happened either. This is kind of like a regular thing that happens in this world, where a huge demon attacks. They summon people from our world into their fantasy world. They're unique heroes, blah, blah, blah. The cycle goes over and over. Now,
Yeah.
The thing that makes this different is that one of the students, he's not that highly ranked in his magical test.
Right.
And what they do is they dispose of these heroes, because there's no way of sending them back home unless they get the energy from the big dark demon.
Okay.
Whatever. So they dispose of him, and he's like, "This isn't fair. Like, you can't do this to me, you know?
Yeah.
To throw me out like trash." And the goddess is like, "Well, history has shown us is that the weak rank heroes get in the way of the S rank heroes when they're trying to fight this demon. So everyone else in the class is kind of like, just shut up and go away. Like, it is what it is."
This is the Spartan selection process from 300, where they're just literally looking at the children and going, "No, into the pit." Okay, cool.
So he gets teleported to a dungeon to, essentially survive. That's the best thing he can do. And that's where the story kind of really starts, is that he's got this weak magic power, and how does he survive? Of course, he swears revenge on everyone and the goddess.
Yeah.
So that part's kind of the interesting. It's kind of like he goes from this nobody in his class, because he's not the jock or the loudmouth. He's just the quiet kid in the corner. And then he gets teleported to this world and find out he's no special and he's disposable.
Okay. Interesting. Again, it's like, if there's like good payoff to the idea of like the revenge story, and if, as with a lot of isekai, man, it's always the quiet boy in the class who is, I guess, the target audience for a lot of this stuff. The young boy reading the manga in the back row. If like he kind of gets revenge, which is more of a, I would associate this is not based on a manhwa by any chance, because like this whole like, oh, I was bullied and now I've got superpowers thing seems to be every webtoon I've ever read. I like, that seems to be the trope there, and I'm just wondering, maybe either it's a Japanese studio then riffing on that, or if it actually started as a manhwa.
Light novel, and there's a manga release as well.
That was the other one I should have said. It sounds like a light novel as well as a manhwa. Okay. Okay, yeah, as I said, if that arc of him coming back and becoming stronger and clearly like becoming something in this dungeon to get revenge on these people actually leads somewhere, I can imagine that being quite interesting.
Yeah.
But
same.
I saw the title and was like, another isekai. Okay.
Yeah, it's only 12 episodes, so I might stick with it, because I saw the trailer a couple of months ago, and I really liked the look of that premise of a goddess summoning you and then going, actually, no thanks. So I kind of liked that, but the animation isn't anything to write home about. Like, some of the first, some of the first enemies he sees in the dungeon is kind of like a wonky 3D CGI. So
okay.
I wouldn't say this is top of my list, but I might stick with it.
Okay, because I remember the one thing actually that stuck out to me from the trailer was they had some. There's clearly they've put a lot of budget into certain scenes then, and like a lot of animation time, because some of it looked very nice. But if you're saying that the beats in between there are also like wonky and then I'll probably give it a miss, honestly. Even if you came to me and said this is the best isekai I've watched, I'd be like, okay, never mind.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, I thought the same when I saw the trailer as well, because I was like, the goddess has this aura and stuff, and I was like, oh wow, this looks like top end, but sadly not. Sadly not.
That's a shame. Okay, I guess I should just pull the blister off and talk about the only isekai on this list that I'm actually remotely interested in.
What? Go on.
Yeah, well, fortunately, I have a wife who's not that interested in anime, and so
Hmm.
it has to be a very good anime for me to watch it because she's generally watching things on other services like Max. And lo and behold, the gods have said, "Oh, you want some anime on that service?" and delivered unto me Suicide Squad Isekai. Now, would I pay for Max specifically to watch this had I not already had the service? Probably
Hmm.
not. I will admit, as you already said, even some of the trailer from what I've seen, the animation goes from very high highs whenever Harley Quinn's there to some very stilted looking combat animation from time to time. But I think if you were to make anything into an anime that from Western comics at the moment, I think this is obviously the right thing to do it with.
Hmm.
I know that there have been, as I can see, like Batman Ninja as you're scrolling, there have been anime set within the DC world before.
Hmm.
But Harley Quinn coming full circle and being an anime character in Western media now into an actual anime character is something I'm kind of here for. And
Yeah.
after James Gunn's Suicide Squad and also the Peacemaker TV series, which I did not expect to like, and yet I absolutely adore, I'm like, okay, let's see what this is all about. I'll give it a shake for an episode or two.
Hmm.
I have absolutely no faith in them sticking the landing, if I'm totally honest. But again, the bits that look great from the trailer remind me of the Suicide Squad movie and
Hmm.
the Peacemaker TV show. So I'm like, okay, if you're going to put this over the top humor in a medium that really lends itself to over the top humor, then I'm going to watch it and hopefully it's okay. And I may be, because of her enjoying Peacemaker as well, despite her not really being into superheroes, be able to
Hmm.
drag my wife along as well. So I get some of our time to really be me time.
Yeah, it's I kind of went into this not with a lot of hope is probably the
Yeah.
best thing. I kind of like the idea of Harley being in an anime genre, like if it's this, if you put her in the sort of magical school genre, magical girl genre, I think that would be, just as good as well. Um First episode I really liked, and I was quite surprised with some of the puns in there, because I don't know if you picked up on it, and I don't know if this is me just stretching, but are they doing a joke with Clayface looking like Matt Smith?
Oh, they really? No, I hadn't picked up on that, but gosh, I hope so.
Because in that first episode, they make a joke about him wearing a bow tie, and there was another joke where the fantasy world was like Game of Thrones,
Yeah.
and I was kind of like, are they? If I'm reading this rightly, are they insinuating like Clayface models himself on like Matt Smith or something?
I mean, it's very funny considering, he's currently the star of HBO's House of Dragons, which is the front running series on Max. But
Yeah.
also, just Googling Clayface Matt Smith, question mark. He seems like he's been fan cast a lot as Clayface. So maybe it's just the internet being meme and then them picking up on it. I don't know.
That's very cool. That's very cool. Yeah, I've enjoyed this from what I've seen so far. The only thing I would agree with you on is in some of the latest episodes is that some of those CG 3G dragons have become
Mhm.
very very wonky, very very wonky. So which is a shame because this is Wit Studio, so I would expect like some incredible stuff, as we would all do, really. So
Yeah.
yeah, Wit Studio. The first episode with the car chase with the Joker using a piano to steer his car, I thought was fantastic.
I cannot wait to watch it, man. Like there's just bits from that trailer, like even them going into the isekai world and just some of the silly things with them just talking to each other and just insulting each other seems like it's going to be right up my street.
Absolutely, it's very cool. Not my first pick to be turned into an anime from the DC universe, and probably not this lineup neither. But I'm really happy with the end result.
Good. It gives me hope again. It's just weird, right? Because I honestly, if you said to me like, "Hey, there's a new Suicide Squad movie coming out," I'd be like, "Did James Gunn do it?" And then maybe I'd
Yeah.
go. I have the superhero fatigue that everyone else has, and so I generally, if you would have said to me, "Oh, this is coming out," and I think you probably did, I'm pretty sure you have alerted me to the presence of this many moons ago when it was announced. I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay, I guess that's fine." But yeah, I don't know what it is. Maybe there's just not been a lot of superhero content for a while, and again, with the goodwill they've built up with the last Suicide Squad movie and Peacemaker, and I didn't play the Suicide Squad game, then maybe I'm just willing to dip my toe in a little bit and see how it is, despite it being isekai.
I guess this is also like a palate cleanser, like you said, for all that sort of superhero fatigue. Because for those who still love these characters and everything else, but as you say, have been hard done by the video games, the movies, what other genres out there. At least this is something else to kind of be like, well, I'm still getting my Joker fix, like here, and fun with Peacemaker whilst I wait for season 2 to kind of bring me back into the fold.
Yeah. We're just looking to see. Apparently, the Suicide Squad movie did pretty well for a superhero movie in Japan. So maybe it's just trying to build on the momentum of that and going like, oh, well, actually, maybe there's a market for this in Japan.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know I've seen a lot of these Kobayukiya, like Bishuju statues of Harley Quinn and stuff in the Kobayukiya store in Tokyo. So, I mean, clearly there's a market there that Warner is like, maybe we just do more of this. Maybe that's how we win this war.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Turn it into a magical schoolgirl.
Honestly,
All
right?
the
thing you said with that is there's a manga I've wanted to read for ages called Machi Mocho, with the insanely long subtitle of "I messed up and made the wrong person into a magical girl." And I've wanted to read it for ages, but I never seem to find the first volume. But it is pretty much what if you gave magical girl powers to someone who was slightly masochistic and a bit unhinged. And so I'm just like, yeah, that actually just do that. Just make that with Harley Quinn, and that would be it.
Easy win. There's a manga series, a Spider-Man one, where Peter Parker, does the classic give up his suit in a trash can. And it's about this kid who finds the suit and becomes Spider-Man.
Yeah. Cool.
And that's the manga series in a nutshell. Like it's everything Spider-Man you could think of besides it being Peter Parker. It's just a Japanese kid in high school. It's really bizarre.
I need to check that out. There's also there's a Spider-Man manga from the 70s that I really want to read because it's drawn by the Crying Freeman guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it looks absolutely nuts. Ryochi Ikegami drew it. It looks incredible.
Is it
It's just very.
Is it the same as the TV show with the super robot and the Embassy of Hell and stuff?
I think it's like super gritty Spider-Man.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I've just seen cover art for it. It's nothing I've really dived into, but I will. Oh, it's just it looks really cool. It's just Japanese Spider-Man, but it's more gritty and more speed lines than you would usually see in a Stanley Jack Kirby book. Or Ditko, I should say, rather than Kirby. Correct myself before I'm corrected.
Excellent. Your turn. Any other series that? Oh no, you said
No, I just went. See, I gave you
did.
catnip. I gave you something you wanted to talk about. But yeah, no, it's on you.
That's fine. That's absolutely fine. The other series I've watched, and again, I'm not sure. I've seen a lot of hype around this one. The Elusive Samurai.
Yes, this is on my list as well.
So I've watched the first 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Beautiful animation, beautiful color palette as well. It is absolutely gorgeous to watch. 12 episodes, and by Studio Cloverworks. The opening sequence is, again, fantastic to watch. It is so beautiful. The story of this one, our hero is a young lord. He gets betrayed by the house's best samurai. His family sadly perish, and he was foretold to be the hero of this war that is currently taking place. The whole idea is that he's not very much of a fighter, but he has these incredible skills of dodging and weaving attacks, because he enjoyed running away from his teachers so much growing up, for his lessons on archery or samurai swordplay and stuff. So that's the short version. The longer version is that he loves life, and unlike his counterpart, who's the harbinger of death in this war and everything. So beautiful subplot. 2 episodes in, I don't know if I'm hooked yet.
Interesting. So this has been on my radar for a while. I'm very glad. I was very aware that they were going to make it into an anime because, as you know, Barista, I read Yusue Matsui's Assassination Classroom, and this is their next work. And there are bits of Assassination Classroom I really like. I like the humor. I like some of the combat-y, weird stuff that the kids get up to, but also a lot of it fell very flat for me. And this being set in a historic Japanese setting, it having this arc, as you say, of this young kid being forced into the belly of this war and being a key piece of like being prophesized to be the person come out of it. I was like, oh, this sounds really good. And it's been one of those things that I've kind of clicked on and gone to start reading a couple of times. And I think this is the push I need to actually start reading the manga, and then I'm going to try and watch the series because it looks incredible from what I've seen of the trailers. It looks, like when you can see, okay, this has the potential to be the feel-good hit of the summer. I'm like, it's probably going to be Elusive Samurai, like, because they're pulling out all the stops on the animation front. And I have heard people say very, very positive things about the manga. It just might be one of those ones that takes a couple of episodes to get going. And so I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt. But let's see. Like I said, I wouldn't say, oh my gosh, Assassination Classroom is one of my favorite books. But there's a lot to like in there. And I'm hoping that this being the follow-on work to that some of those problems get polished off and we get a better overall story for it.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely a valid point. And as much as I am a sucker for visuals and I love clean animation and a good color palette and everything else, so far, there hasn't been something that's pulled at my heart or me sinking my teeth in like, oh my God, I can't wait to see more of this. Because again, the weaving and dodging animation sequences I've seen have been outstanding, and even the over exaggeration of attack moves as well have been gorgeous. But I don't know if it's the character. I don't know if it's the sub characters. I've just like not clicked with it just yet.
Based on what you're saying about the plot, do you think it has the potential to be a story kind of akin to season 2 of Vinland Saga, where it's more a story less about, even though it's set in like even though it's set in historic Japan, even though it's got, these characters that clearly the samurai who betrays him is a very, oh, I'm all about power and everything else. Do you think it has the sensibilities or the range to tell a story that's kind of about, well, there's more to life than power and fighting? Or is that me reading a bit too much into it based on what you've already said?
I can see where you're going with that. I don't think it could hit that lane because it's still kind of a shonen. So it still has this wacky character, wacky sort of shaman character who predicted the samurai's future and stuff. So I think tonally it couldn't hit that extra gear to kind of be into that category. I think there is, like, again, a great subplot on life versus death. And because, again, one element of this is that when his family was getting attacked, they decided to take the honorable way out instead of fighting. If you get my meaning.
Yeah, I assume.
So for him to then be the flip reverse of what his father did, again, is kind of a real nice subtext. Not subtext, but yeah, it's a poetic element to the story. But we have to remember this is a shonen that.
Well, no, I know that, but hey, man, there's some pretty deep things in shonen sometimes. Like, it's not all reserved for seinen. Don't get me wrong. The other thing from Vinland I was going to say was vagabond-esque. Like, oh, he's a really good man, but then he turns to farming. Like, I know that range is obviously there within seinen. And the reason I ask that, and the reason, like, based on these first seasons, is I'm not sure I trust Matsui to do that based on Assassination Classroom either.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Like I said, I like this kind of historical Japanese setting. I think it's got a lot of range. From what I've seen of the animation, it looks good. So I will give it a go, and hopefully I will be rewarded for my efforts. Let's see.
Good stuff. Any other sort of topics?
So there's a couple that I've looked at and gone, oh, maybe this, maybe that. The one, okay, I'm just gonna jump to the one that I would love to more see, and the one that is annoyingly not licensed anywhere at the moment. It seems to be the only one on this list of Summer Anime 2024 that's not there. There's a new Grandizer show called Grandizer U. For those of you who don't know, it's based on an old Go Nagai manga / anime of giant robots. And surprise, surprise, as I said in the start, I love me some giant robots. I've actually been reading a lot of Go Nagai stuff recently. Seven Seas put out the Devilman Complete Collection omnibuses. And so from there, I was like, wow, this is crazy. I need to go and read more Go Nagai. And he is one of the fathers of the big robot genre. He wrote Mazinger Z, which is a hugely influential manga that got turned into an anime and is loved by people outside of Europe the world over, from what I understand. It's a very big anime within Asia and certain European countries. But I want to watch, having seen how crazy the artwork is in Grandizer in the manga, and just going, wow, this is absolutely nuts. This feels so... There's so much energy and there's so much weird stuff going on that I want to see this in modern anime trappings, and it isn't currently available anywhere. And I really want it to be. Starting it here, saying I'm starting the grassroots efforts. Go tell Crunchyroll you want Grandizer, please, for my sake.
Yeah, Crunchyroll, if you're watching, please help us out. Like,
please. Yeah,
do us a solid.
It looks cool. I admittedly, the ratings that I've seen on AniList and a few other sites tell me maybe it's not the best. But again, I think it's a certain style of storytelling from a certain era.
Yeah.
And I just want to see that with all the modern anime trappings and the budget that these shows usually get now. So let's see. Hopefully, I get my wish. Hopefully, I'll get it sooner rather than later, but we'll see.
Fingers crossed. I just realized that's also a Gojo move. JJK just ruined me, isn't it? Gosh. Yeah, fingers crossed. It'd be really cool for this to get the roll out. Worst case scenario is if those of you who have VPNs, let us know if that's worked for you to be able to watch this. Because yeah, it'd be really cool to be able to see this. And yeah, super robots also need love. It's not just everyone thinks of mechas and combining and transforming. Super robots also need love too.
Super robots need love too. Inside that big iron body, there's a big iron heart in need of love. You heard it here first.
We got to get that on a t-shirt.
Let's do it. Let's make it happen.
This is probably going to be my last pick. And then I'll probably do a few honorable mentions. So this was something else at the top of my list that I was really looking forward to coming out this season. So this is called Wistoria, Wand and Sword. Now, the premise of this, and it's been compared a lot to Mashle and Black Clover, because the main character has no magical powers, but is in this magical school and wants to become the best wizard, magician, whatever you want to call it, in this world. Now, the reason I was really looking forward to this is that it's the same mangaka who did Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in Dungeon?
Okay.
So this is a follow-up of their sort of works, really. I can't remember how many episodes will be released, but it's produced by Bandai Namco Pictures. So it has a really good sort of studio behind it and everything. And the visuals of this is just beautiful. It is one of the best looking series I've seen this year. And I say this a lot, but I am just blown away by how good this looks.
I really agree with you. It was one of the ones that almost made it onto my list. And I looked at it. And I think it was the close proximity to watching Mashle and kind of seeing that thing. And even though it doesn't strike me as the same kind of comedy vibes, it's clearly a very self-serious is the wrong word, but like it's clearly like within its universe, it's going, all right, cool, this is going to be the story we're going to tell. It looks gorgeous. It could be the hit of this season, but I need someone to tell me this is the hit of the season. You know what I mean? Like looking at the character design and everything else, I think it felt a little generic while I watched the trailer is my only put down on it and why it didn't end up making my list. But it does look great. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm so torn.
I think you do add a point there that it's an uphill battle because one, this isn't the show that everyone's looking forward to this season. It's either Tower of God season 2, it's Oniko season 2. You know, it's on everyone's back burners, and especially if this is already getting compared to Black Clover and Mashle. It's already kind of devalued in a lot of people's minds because they're like, I've seen 2 things like this already. Why would I watch a third? Yeah. And the reason that I'd say this is different from those is, one, the main character is way different to the way those characters are. Even though they're super strong, they are the kindest and most timid person in their whole class sort of thing. So you have this, to me, and again, kind of similar to what you were saying about Western media being transferred into an anime, this is probably the closest thing to a Harry Potter that I could ever dream of becoming an anime.
Yeah.
If Harry had no magic but was super strong, I think this is like the closest thing that kind of fits into that like that piece just there.
Yeah.
And again, it's kind of cool. Like he has the big round circle glasses. He has to swap them out for goggles when he does like a hand fight, and they do this constant sort of comparison that a sword in his hand is like a wand in his hand, and
Yeah.
stuff. So yeah, I'm definitely all in on this one.
Like I said, I'm open to being pleasantly surprised by this. Maybe I will watch the first episode or two because it is on Crunchyroll, and like I said, it looked good. Maybe also the Harry Potter route is again me using the dark arts, to lure my wife into anime and be like, oh, look at this. Because there's a couple this season that I think I could probably do that with. But yeah, the Harry Potter comparison being apt here, maybe this is the first one I start with on my attempt to corrupt her to anime.
You'll feel the themes. Like there's a teacher who has dark magic, he has long dark hair and wears all black, and you're kind of like, is this like a young hot Snape sort of caricature sort of thing? So yeah, it's it does raise a few questions there, but I am thoroughly enjoying this after just watching 2 episodes.
Cool. If you're enjoying it, I'll take that as the seal of approval, and I'll give it a look.
Before I go into my honorable mentions, was there any others that you wanted to pick out?
No, I think all of the rest of mine, to be honest with you, are honorable mentions also. I'm just quickly scrolling through. Oh, actually, no, there is one more that I will watch, I think, before I get into honorable mentions, which is Makiine, Too Many Losing Heroines.
Oh yeah.
The only reason this makes this list and kind of goes above honorable mentions, and why I'll definitely watch the first episode or two, is it immediately gave me Anohana vibes. The animation looks incredible, and while high school rom-coms aren't usually my thing, I was like, oh, this kind of looks a bit like Anohana. And then I realized it's A1 Pictures who did Anohana, and I was like, oh, well, I liked that, and I didn't expect to, so I'm going to give this a go. It just seems like honestly a pretty generic rom-com from what I can see on the trailer. Maybe there's some more depth to it. Maybe there's something more going on, but it looked nice enough, at least from the animation, that I'm going to actually invest the time and watch the first couple of episodes of this. Whereas I think my honorable mentions list is I'll sit on the fence until someone tells me it's good enough to watch, or I need to watch the first season before I can go and watch them, as I'm sure you'll know what some of those are.
I did see this come up, and yeah, I was intrigued, but romance stuff is usually like at the bottom end of my list because what can I say? I've got the attention span of a child, so.
I mean, I'm very, as we get into honorable mentions lists and channeling to here in his absence, the reason that I'm kind of opened my heart is because I read Orange with him on Manga Tak, and I was like, maybe I should get more into shoujo. Maybe there's some more here for me that I'll actually really enjoy. And so with that in mind, I say, okay, I'll give this a go. And also channeling him again, I'm very surprised that a certain new Rave Master show hasn't made your list.
Oh, all the jokes coming in now. Oh.
I'm sorry. We're almost an hour in. I have to let it fly sooner or later.
Yes, it is part of my honorable mention list. Fairy Tail 100-Year Quest is here. And what can I say that hasn't been said before? It's Fairy Tail. It's back. And yeah, more magic, more fun, and everything else. So yeah, very cool, very happy.
I should preface this by saying, again, I know this is a joke you two have, so I'm just playing on it. I haven't read anything by Hiro Mashima. I apologize. I will not yuck your yum. It was an easy goal. I couldn't help myself.
That's absolutely fine. And look, if you do want a copy of Fairy Tale, I'm more than happy to share.
Thank you. Maybe I will one day. I have Rave Master Volume 1, so maybe
Do you?
what I'll do. I do, yeah. I picked up a lot of vintage books at one point, purely because there were a couple of volumes of Rave Master and Eye Shield 21 in there. I was like, oh,
Wow.
admittedly, more for Eye Shield 21 because I've been
Yeah.
long curious about that book. But yeah, Rave Master's in there. Maybe one day we'll cover it. Ooh.
Also, there's a crossover manga which has the main character from Eden Zero, Rave Master, and Fairy Tale, which is it's like the Avengers Endgame all over again. But
I thought it was just going to be more like that Spider-Man meme of them all pointing at each other, but there you go.
I mean, that is the cover, but yeah.
Good. I'm glad.
Excellent. Two more honorable mentions. The first one is Matt, you might want to cover your ears, but it's another isekai, which is called "Why Does No One Remember Me in This World?"
Yeah.
Saw the trailer for this. I thought it was pretty cool. Again, I kind of like the idea of an MC that no one remembers and is trying to fight his corner in not only magical ways, but in memory ways.
Yeah. You will be happy to know this is the only isekai that made my honorable mentions list.
Oh, wow.
And honestly, I feel the same. I was like, oh, that's kind of a new spin on this, that no one remembers this person. This could be quite interesting. You know, the thing that stopped it making my actual list, though, Zane,
Go on.
was that every single piece of key art, including those here, gives me Sword Art Online vibes. And that was it. That was enough. Where I was just like, oh, this just looks like Sword Art. I've been hurt before. No, sir. I'm not doing this again. She may as well be in a cage. She may as well be. And I just, again, just can't do it again.
It's only 12 episodes, so it's definitely not got that longevity that Sword Art had to begin with. But
no,
I see where I see it. I see.
I'm sorry for having to pull back the blinders from you there and seeing it, but it also springs from a light novel. It also had a manga adaptation, and now it is this, and I cannot help but think that some of those story beats would potentially go along that route based on even this image at the top of the main heroine in chains above her head. So it's the only reason I'm like, okay, maybe, but no, not for me.
That's fine. That's not a problem.
Exactly. I know people have broad and varying tastes. I'm here to say that. It's just not for me. You may really, really enjoy it, but it's not my cup of tea.
There we go. My last honorable mention is, again, slightly unique, but Terminator Zero, a project. I think, it's coming to Netflix.
Ooh. I had seen this on the list. And again, as with Suicide Squad Isekai, I'm kind of here for Western properties getting animes. I like the idea of this, especially for stories that potentially aren't being told in film and media anymore. Like, can you imagine if they did an Aliens anime? How amazing that would be.
Yeah, that would be pretty incredible. I think we may have spoke about it before on the podcast, but sometimes those sort of 80s action movies feel like they could be turned into like any sort of anime and just kind of hit the ground running.
Yeah.
So like Aliens, Predator, um, Terminator, it just feels like they could easily, and especially if they do it in that sort of Blade Runner-esque sort of universe, if you know what I mean, kind of.
Hmm.
Oh, it just feels like it writes itself. 10 episodes. Oh no, sorry, 8 episodes, and being produced by Production IG. So again, world
Cool.
class animation there.
Good stuff. I might give that a watch. It's been a while since I've seen anything Terminator, so yeah, if it's good, then I will definitely dive in.
Excellent. Any other honorable mentions from yourself?
Yeah, I have one or two. Again, in my what anime can I ensnare the heart of my wife with?
Yeah,
I'd seen Delico's Nursery,
I did see that come up. Yeah.
and not only does it look absolutely gorgeous, but it's essentially slice of life vampires from what I could really see in this kind of like Victorian Gothic style.
Hmm.
And how there are all these vampires who have missions going on, but then essentially they have to raise like young children.
Yeah.
And I saw it and I thought, oh, this could be interesting. This seems a bit something a bit quirky and a bit offbeat. Maybe that mix of action and this kind of mix of intrigue. I know she likes a lot of vampire themed media, so I was like, oh, maybe this is the way I can guide her in. I don't necessarily think, based on the reviews and stuff I've seen, it's going to have the staying power of something like Free Ren, where she's going to want to watch it every week. But
Hmm.
give it a go.
Yeah. I did see this come up, and I was instantly drawn into the art style. Um, but the title made me instantly think of Promised Neverland.
Yeah, I thought the same. The art style is actually kind of similar to how I imagine the front of the mangas too. So
Mm. But studio behind this is JC Staff, and again they have like a real good track record. So yeah, I if I got some downtime, I might jump into this, see what it's like. Hmm.
yeah, that's the thing, right? It's just like I'll put on an episode. If it clicks with the two of us, then maybe we'll carry on watching it. If it doesn't, then I'll just be like, okay, cool. And I will pull
Yeah.
out something else.
Hmm.
Maybe
That's
then
fair.
Wisperia comes out of the drawer. I'm not sure. We'll see.
Yeah, maybe.
What else have I got on here? My Okana Punch looked kind of interesting. I like a good original series. This is not based on an anime or this is a new anime. It isn't based on a manga or a light novel or anything like that, from what I could see. And it's vampire themed, which is the thing that I was like, the supernatural element maybe wouldn't be my thing. But essentially, it's about a someone who gets into making YouTube videos. And I thought that there was a lot of style in the trailer, which is sometimes the thing that is the catnip to get me into anime that I wouldn't necessarily be into. Maybe I'll just watch an episode or two.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot going on, and it kind of gave me the same graphic treatment vibes from Cyberpunk in that
Oh
trailer and
wow.
Edge Runner.
Yeah.
And even though this is obviously much more of a traditional anime, even though it's got supernatural elements and everything else. It's just a lot of like graphic treatments, a lot of textures, a lot of really interesting kinetic moving type, which as a
Mm-hmm.
graphic designer is my catnip. And so I'm like, it doesn't look like something I'm going to be into, but at least I'm going to watch the OP and go like, oh, that was a really cool thing that they did with that typography. So we shall see.
Mm. Yeah, I was again interested in the sort of character, like use of color and stuff, when I saw the thumbnail. But I haven't seen the trailer, so I might actually watch the trailer, as you say, just to see if I get a sense feel for it. Only 12 episodes, So again, doesn't seem like a huge ask. Yeah, studio PA works. So again, decent little studio.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have two more.
Yeah.
One of them being, and I'm not going to talk too much about it because it seems to be on everyone's hot lists. It's not really my cup of tea, but again, in trying to open my heart up to shoujo, Alya sometimes hides a feeling in Russian. Looks like it could be
Yes.
quite fun. And it looks very well animated. Again, this will be one I try and watch with the wife to see if I can drag her down the dark path. But the whole premise of this new very popular girl coming to this school and her kind of being charmed by this doofus in the back row who she doesn't really think much about, and she kind of falls in love with because he isn't a try hard like everyone else. And then she, as the title suggests, sometimes says her feelings out loud in Russian, a language she doesn't expect anyone in a Japanese classroom to understand. But alas, he does, and he doesn't tell her because he enjoys listening to all the compliments she pays him in Russian. Seems simple enough. Again, it'll be hey, we'll put on an episode, we'll see if it clicks. But it's further down the list. But I was like, okay, this could be something. And given the positive reviews it has, and apparently the manga is also very good, maybe it's something I'll check out in one form or another.
Yeah, it's I've seen this be recommended quite a lot. I guess for that audience where there was a community can't communicate, when that became super popular, I guess this is kind of like a nice sort of similar lane sort of series. So yeah, I could definitely see the appeal for it.
Every now and again, I just want a nice slice of life and just a relatively simple story. As with Orange, if it becomes too much that they can't voice the most basic of human conversation without going into a tizzy, then maybe I will slowly move away from it. I know that is sometimes an unfortunate truth of shoujo, is that all of the drama is invented by the fact that people just can't say a simple sentence to each other. It's just a slight frustration of mine, and I know is catnip for Sue, but it doesn't do it for me. And with that in mind, my fallback slice of life show will be Ramen Akineko. I've seen this manga in Manga Plus here for a long time, and it's just cats running a ramen shop. It's a very simple premise. It ticks two of my favorite boxes. But the trailer kind of gives me Polar Bear Cafe vibes, and I love Polar Bear Cafe, and so I will give it a chance. It doesn't look as you'd imagine with a cat themed manga. All of the humor seems to be based around the cats and like brushing the cats and taking care of them and everything else. And I think Polar Bear Cafe is a bit more clever than that. I think Polar Bear Cafe puts the animals protagonists at the center of like actual events, and yes, there are episodes where like Panda gets a job as being a panda part-time at a zoo and this kind of thing, but they live lives outside of the stereotypical stuff you would assume with animals. But like this has an interesting setup. It's a girl going to work in a ramen shop, and weirdly, the fact that she's a dog person, as it says here, is the thing that lands her the role because they don't want people fawning over the cats all day. I'll give it a look. It looks very, very wholesome. It's a very popular manga, from what I understand. It's been quite long running. It hasn't been dropped in any of these waves of shonen titles getting dropped, so there must be something to it.
Yeah,
I'll give it a look, but every now and again, you just want something you can throw on and just turn your brain off. And I think this might be that series. Let's see.
Interesting pick. Yeah, I love a good food anime. So yeah, I guess I'm interested. I'm definitely interested. It's definitely on my radar. It wasn't prior to that, so yeah, thank you for popping that on because that is cool.
Yeah, the other stuff is, again, there's some stuff with season 2s, but I'm not going to talk too much about it. Tower of Gods, Nier Automata. Oshinoko looks incredible with animation, but again, it's on high dive and I bounced off the manga really quickly. So I'm sure they will be most people's top picks this season, but we'll see if I get around to the first two, and I can't watch Oshinoko even if I wanted to. So it is what it is.
There we go. Excellent. So that has been our picks. Let us know if we missed anything. Let us know what you're watching this season as well. And make sure to like, share, subscribe. If you listen to this on your favorite podcast platform, give us a star rating. It'll help us out in a big, bad way. Matt, if anyone wants to follow you, of course, all the relevant, all the links will be in the description. But just in case, where could they find you?
Well, they can find me in a variety of places. The easiest way, and obviously the most beneficial / relevant to this audience, is I run a podcast called Manga Tak. I already sneakily dropped it in already. But Zane will be on very, very soon by the time you listen to this. Sue has recently been on, and also we obviously did the episode 0, which is a very, very long, in-depth conversation about Jujutsu Kaisen 0, which, if you like Jujutsu Kaisen, maybe give it a listen. I'm on the social media as well, at Manga Tak Pod, as you can see at the bottom of the screen. Instagram, X, I almost said Twitter. I'm trying to get out of the habit. And Blue Sky. So give me a look. I generally don't post that much stuff other than try and post very interesting shots of the manga I've been covering that week with a guest. So have a look.
As I said, all relevant links will be in the description down below. And thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And we will be back soon with another episode. Thanks for your time. Bye.
Thanks.